Namaste, and welcome back to Spiritual Intelligence. In today's episode, we're going to be revisiting the SQ chart and beginning to break down one of the SQ levels a little bit deeper, which is the fifth level known as illumination. There are 5 basic laws of an illuminated mind, which understanding can help us better to integrate these laws and raise our own SQ level. So please join me for this 16th episode of Spiritual Intelligence as we explore the 5 laws of illumination. So as we've said in our previous episodes, the illumination level of SQ is what we classically call enlightenment, and it correlates to the throat chakra level of wisdom and non-duality. But those are sort of just words, right? A more important question is, what is the actual experience of an illuminated mind like? What is the quality of consciousness feel like at that level, and why? These are questions that can ultimately only be answered by reaching that level for yourself. But what we can say to maybe help point us in that direction and to get a sense for it is that there are 5 basic universal laws that an illuminated mind understands and abides by. And so for us to begin understanding these laws and integrating them can help us reach the illumination level much faster. Now, in episode number 1, I gave you my sort of working definition of spiritual intelligence, which was the capacity for self-awareness and integration. But I want to present you with another definition today, which coincides with the first one. We know that you can only understand the universe and reality to the extent that you understand yourself. No awareness of self equals no awareness of reality either. So another very simple definition of spiritual intelligence could be stated as one's comprehension of reality. In other words, how spiritually intelligent someone is directly determined by how much of reality they comprehend. And when I say comprehend, I don't mean with the intellect, because the mind can learn about spiritual truths and just turn them into concepts. And then it thinks that it knows the universe, and yet all of its behaviors are still constantly violating these laws. So I mean comprehension of awareness, not the intellect. And when I say comprehension of reality, I don't mean objective measurements of the universe like physics or mathematics or biology. I mean the universal spiritual laws that exist within all of us, that by becoming aware of them, help us to understand the universe around us as well. Because each one of us is like a microcosm of the macrocosm, the whole universe in miniature. So when you know yourself, you know the universe in equal proportion, because the universe is yourself. And that's actually one of the 5 laws. This is why things like resistance or complaining about something represent a low level of spiritual intelligence, as well as things like unforgiveness, judgment towards others, guilt, projection, self-loathing, and so on. In the same way that we can't expect a little child to solve even a basic math problem yet, because it just hasn't developed the necessary IQ to do so. These reactions only come out of us when we have not developed a sufficient level of SQ yet. And so this is why all beings, at their core, are innocent and pure. But nevertheless, all of these reactions represent different kinds of ignorance of these universal laws. So these are the 5 laws that an illuminated mind fully understands and abides by in every circumstance that may arise. Illumination represents a mind that is full of light, where all of the shadows of ignorance have been fully illuminated. And I'm calling these laws rather than principles because, again, they are not experienced conceptually at the illumination level, meaning they're not something that one thinks about anymore. The illuminated mind has simply lost the ability to violate any one of these 5 laws. Just like we don't think twice about stopping at a red light. It's just a law we understand and abide by thoughtlessly. In the same way, the enlightened one cannot violate these 5 eternal truths. And that is why this state of consciousness carries with it an immense peace of mind, inner stillness, and joy. So with all that being said, let's take a look at what these 5 laws are. The 5 laws of illumination can also be seen as 5 universal truths. There is really just one truth in the universe, but because the mind is so conceptual in nature, it has to understand this one truth from many different angles. So we can describe this one truth of the universe in these 5 different ways. And when they are understood, they eliminate the functions of the egoic mind that constantly tries to possess and fight against reality. So the first law is that the universe is perfect. This is a fundamental truth that the enlightened mind knows. You are inside of perfection. Reality is always perfect, and it never commits an injustice. Nothing that happens in reality can be argued with. So the understanding of this law removes all ability for one to have resistance towards anything in the universe. Everything is naturally accepted as it is, without resistance. And this effectively means the end of suffering. The awareness of reality's perfection brings the mind great joy and bliss. But in order to see it, one must first surrender to it and acknowledge it. The second law is, only my own mind affects me. This law follows the first. Because reality is perfect, it means that this is a no-victim universe. The entire universe is nothing but the reflection of your own mind. So when we see reality in any way differently than reality sees itself, reality seeks to correct our misperceptions of it through a mechanism that we call suffering. Suffering is a wake-up call from the universe to change our point of view about it. But the ego always tries to change reality rather than its own mind. Because we are only ever seeing one piece of the puzzle at a time, we cannot see the full picture of why things happen. And so the ego especially wants to argue against this law. But the law of karma ensures that everyone is experiencing the consequences of their own actions, whether from this lifetime or a previous lifetime. So to believe that I am a victim to something outside of myself is to say that reality is cruel and unfair. And this is a violation of law number 1. All that can cause karma and suffering is a wrong view of oneself. Life does present us with challenges to overcome, but it does not make mistakes. So the illuminated mind has no ability to blame reality for its problems. It knows that only my hateful thoughts about reality bring me suffering, and only my loving thoughts about it bring me joy. The third law is that time does not exist. The only fear the mind can really have is the fear of death. All other fears are only the fear of death in disguise. Time is just an illusion that the mind invents when it moves through space. It does not actually exist in reality. The disappearance of a physical object is not really death, but an energetic recycling. Nothing actually dies in the universe because nothing is actually physical, nor is anything existing in time. As the Buddha says in the Diamond Sutra, no beginning is the highest truth. If there is no time, then there is no death either. So the acceptance of this law completely abolishes all fear. Because how can something that never changes or dies be afraid? If you exist right now, that implies that you always exist. Your very consciousness and existence are the proof that you are an immortal being. Because existence and consciousness are non-physical, and what is non-physical cannot die or exist in time. The fourth law is that the universe is one being. This is the ultimate law to eradicate the belief in separation. The ego lives in constant tension between pleasure and pain, grasping at reality and resisting it. But without the belief in being separate from reality, there can be no lack and no fear. Without lack or fear, there is nothing to attach to and nothing to grasp. Just one infinite being, knowing itself forever. Whatever is included in the infinite is the infinite. And so the realization of this truth manifests as what we call love, the awareness of oneness. The fifth and final law of illumination is that only love satisfies the soul. The mind itself cannot know or understand the nature of reality. And this is why enlightenment cannot be reached until the heart chakra has been opened. Because the heart acts as an interface between the mind and reality. The mind can only come to peace with reality when it looks at it through the eyes of the heart. Love is the binding force of the whole universe. So until one sees the universe with love, it's as if the universe hasn't been fully glued back together again in one's mind. The mind will continue to see the universe as separate, broken, and fragmented. So until love permeates your awareness, you will never fully escape suffering. The illuminated mind understands that love is the reason, the meaning, and the purpose of the whole universe. And so chasing anything else but love will ultimately leave the soul wanting. When this is realized, all striving comes to an end. All one desires is love in every moment. So if one wants to reach the illumination level, love must be realized as the highest truth. And so the 5 essential qualities that each law creates can be summarized as non-resistance, mindfulness, timelessness, oneness, and desirelessness. So a mind that has fully come to terms with these 5 laws is in the illumination level of SQ. It is a mind that is so enlightened by the truth of the universe that it simply cannot suffer any longer. And so the big mistake that we make on the spiritual path is that we all know these things intellectually, but we have not integrated them into our awareness yet. And remember, spiritual intelligence is both awareness and integration. Meaning you can be aware of certain habits and patterns that you have for a very long time before they finally start dissolving. But integration can happen very quickly once you are determined. Once you are fed up with suffering from inauthenticity and old conditioning patterns, and you refuse to give them a free pass any longer. That's also a component of spiritual intelligence. So let's talk about how to integrate each one of these 5 laws. The first law, the universe is perfect, means that we have to start becoming aware of when we are in resistance towards the flow of life. If we are complaining or stressing out or getting angry, then clearly we're not aware yet of just how perfect the universe is. When we treat life as our enemy, we are implying that it's disconnected from us and being unfair towards us. But a disconnected universe would be an imperfect universe. So the first law means that the universe is always working for us, in our favor, even when we can't see it. So to integrate the first law into our awareness, we simply have to become aware of when we are in resistance towards what is, and then consciously turn that resistance into acceptance over and over again, as many times as it takes, until we simply lose the ability to be in resistance towards life any longer. The second law, only my own mind affects me, means that we have to start taking full responsibility for our suffering. We have to start looking for the ways in which we subtly shift the blame outside of us for our suffering. It's his fault. It's because she did that. It's because I was traumatized in my past. When we say these things, we're implying that there is something outside of our mind that can make us suffer against our will. And this is a clear violation of the second law. The whole universe is nothing but your own mind. And so we only suffer because we are misperceiving reality. So when we begin to take full responsibility for our suffering by simply looking for the misperception that's causing our suffering and finding a higher point of view, then all of the old stories and memories from our past quickly lose their hold and influence over us. The third law, time does not exist, can be integrated by paying close attention to when fear arises in your mind. When fear is in your mind, you are in time, and you can step out of time by asking yourself the question, does this fear apply to something that is eternal? By contemplating the eternal nature of existence and consciousness, we can begin to integrate the awareness that time is just an illusion. The mind has a tendency to be obsessed and fixated on objects, people, places, things, events. And this is why it believes that time and death exist, because everything in the material universe is appearing and disappearing, like paper on fire. And so when we think we are an object, we subject ourselves to the fear of death. But that which is holding the universe is existence and consciousness. And these things do not appear or disappear. They are eternal. And so when we contemplate the eternal dimensions within us, existence and consciousness, then we become increasingly convinced that these things make us transcendent to the illusions of time and death. They surpass everything. And so the illusion of time begins to lose its sway over our mind. And when the belief in time goes, all fear goes with it. The fourth law, that the universe is one being, can be integrated by contemplating the nature of oneness continually. And we do this by looking past the form of whatever it is that we're seeing and seeing the essence inside of it. Whatever has life has some kind of animating power and intelligence within it. And that animating power that is in everything is the one being that we all are. And so whenever you catch your mind seeing or treating something as being separate or other than you, get into the habit of correcting that misperception and intentionally looking for your oneness with that thing. This act alone is what destroys the belief in separation. Because when we recognize our shared being within all things, then the natural response within us toward everything becomes love. And that brings us to the fifth and final law. Only love satisfies the soul. This is both the easiest and the hardest law to integrate. It's the easiest law to integrate because once we really get a taste for the sweetness of love, it has its own kind of gravity to it. But it's the hardest law to integrate because there's a very strong tendency that the mind has to constantly look for its fulfillment outside of itself. I call this outcome happiness. The mind is always looking for the next outcome, the next thing, whatever that thing is that's going to fulfill it. And this is a very deeply ingrained pattern in our minds. And so when we learn to correct our mind by bringing it back to love in this moment, every time we notice it, chasing for an outcome, this begins to calm this tendency down very quickly. It is only the awareness of love in this moment that can truly satisfy my soul. And what this means is that we have to give love as well. As A Course in Miracles says, giving is the proof of having, and only the love that I don't give can ever be lacking. So to become love is ultimately what we're all longing for. To have love pour out of us toward everyone and everything is a state of bliss that the mind simply cannot conceive of, and so it just denies its existence. This is why God is not the thought of love or the idea of love, but God is the direct experience of love. God is love itself, and love is the highest state of bliss. It is the one thing that everyone on earth wants more than anything else, and everything we do and strive after is just another way to get love and feel like we are loved. But the paradox is that in order to have love, we have to stop trying to get it from people and places outside of us. And instead, we have to start giving it out. We have to learn to love everything, to see the beauty in everything, and to allow everything to be exactly as it is. And this is what brings us to the highest state of bliss. And so it must be practiced daily to overcome this strong habit of the mind. So whenever we notice the mind straying off to chase another outcome, we just bring it back again to love in this moment. So as you can see, we could easily do an entire episode on each one of these 5 laws. And maybe we will at some point. But for now, I hope that this serves as a good overview of these 5 most important laws for you to contemplate and meditate upon and work on integrating into your awareness. Because truthfully, if any one of these laws is understood completely, it will fulfill all of the rest of them simultaneously. Because remember, there's ultimately just one law in the universe that can't really be described. We can try to put words to it like oneness or non-duality, but ultimately nothing we can say about it can actually get at it directly. So it's more helpful to try to understand it from these 5 different points of view. Each one of them is like a different key to the kingdom of heaven. So I hope that you use these keys well. And I'll see you in our next episode of Spiritual Intelligence. Hey everyone, thank you for watching today's video. I hope that you were truly blessed by it. And I wanted to let you know that I'm really excited to now be partnering with an amazing conscious supplement company called Organifi. A lot of you know that I'm also passionate about holistic health and nutrition, and Organifi has been a staple in my daily health routine for a very long time. They make the most delicious, organic, and high-quality superfood products that I've ever come across. And as you know, a healthy body is a great benefit for spiritual growth. because the health of your body directly translates to the health of your mind. Everything is connected. So feeding your body with high vibrational superfoods straight from the earth is one of the best ways to create that environment for a healthy mind. But getting all the superfoods that your body needs in one day can admittedly be a little bit tough. And that is where Organifi can add a ton of value to your life. I personally start every day off with green, which is Organifi's really delicious blend of 11 superfoods like ashwagandha, chlorella, and moringa. And then in the middle of the day, I'll usually have a scoop of red, which is a delicious energy blend full of 13 adaptogens and antioxidants from berries to recharge your mind and body with a delicious blend of organic superfoods. Your body is an amazing organic machine, but it needs the right fuel and signals to function at its best. And red is full of adaptogens sourced from organic herbs and medicinal mushrooms. And these are compounds that balance hormones, prime your energy pathways, and alleviate stress. So instead of crushing your adrenal system with huge doses of caffeine every day, adaptogens work with your body and give you natural, sustained energy all throughout the day. What's most important to me though about Organifi is the way that they go above and beyond to ensure the cleanest and purest ingredients in all of their products. They are USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, certified glyphosate-free, and absolutely zero fillers. So I never go anywhere without Organifi, and I never miss a day without taking it. And Organifi is offering a super generous discount of 20% off of your entire order when you use the coupon code Abke at checkout. So if you want to upgrade your health regimen with Organifi, you can click on the link in the description box below to learn more about all the amazing products that they offer. And I promise you that your mind and your body are going to thank you for it.